You're right.
All right, here we go. Here we go. It's setting up your meeting. All right, so we should be going now. So we're probably live, Beena. We are probably live.
Hello and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Sil.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good morning, Beena. Good morning.
Good morning, Brain. Hopefully, I will see you soon here. And of course, good mornings to everyone who is going to join us live and will watch us recorded later. You all are most welcome to this Moreness-Culture and the Moreness space Sil has created for us. And I'm the one here who is always taking advantage of things which are profound and valuable. This is
Let's go
something.
now.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So these are the things we need to pay attention to to change. No, sorry. Actually, to be very careful before adapting to it. We by
Yeah.
default we just adapted that. Oh, it is selfish. Oh, it is taking advantage. Is not good. Okay, it is this and all that. Why? How? We don't. We
What
actually
what 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 is taking advantage? Sorry, I missed something here.
taking advantage of anything is like, oh, it's not good, it's bad. Okay, and being
Oh, oh,
selfish
oh.
is of course not good, it's bad. And so many other ideas and perspectives also. I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
okay, before adapting, before actually implementing in our life, we need to pay attention why it is not good, why it is
Yeah.
bad, when it is bad, how it is bad. I was not into this thing, but one thing I was very clear that if my intent, I was not aware of the vocabulary, I was not aware of that, okay, how to articulate that. But I always, from the very beginning, when I joined this way of impeccability, I joined this journey of way of impeccability and Moreness, I was very clear. Yes, I am taking advantage. Very
Oh,
clear about this. No hesitation, no reluctance,
no,
no trying to hide and all sort of nonsense. No. Yes, I
no.
was taking advantage. I am taking advantage and I'm going to take advantage. Why not? That was my question. If something is so brilliant, which I know that I'm not going to find anywhere else easily, and if it is coming to me and
Easily.
it is being offered to me, that okay, yes, you can take advantage, I just take it as a gift from the
No,
universe, and I
no.
took maximum advantage of that. Why not? That was my idea and this is my
Yeah,
ideas. Same applies
yeah.
to all other ideas and perspectives, like being selfish. What else I'm going to be? Who else is going to be selfish?
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. The key is appropriateness.
Exactly. That is the thing that we never pay attention to that. Okay, why it is bad, how and when it is bad. We have this idea, oh, these are bad characteristics. Oh, this is something, no, we should not. Why? Question.
Yeah,
Question thing
yeah,
before implementing, before incorporating into yourself and into your
yeah.
life, ask questions. Valid questions
Is
that
it
how,
is it
yes,
appropriate? Yeah,
or not.
of course. I
This
mean,
is
there
something
is obviously appropriate selfishness, is what you're talking about, right?
exactly.
Appropriately taking advantage. It's like, well, duh, that can be so. But yet, when you think of selfishness and taking advantage, your point is in general, the assumption, the association with those terms is that they almost always negative or always negative, right? So we default to a negative, and this prevents us from doing many things. Yeah, like in this case, not being able to take advantage when taking advantage is the most appropriate thing to possibly do. Yeah,
Yes, exactly, exactly. So this is something like we need to pay attention that why and how and when actually these things are not appropriate. And these same so simple question. If someone is giving you any idea, okay, if it is coming from your religion, if it is coming from your culture, if it is coming from the universe, coming from your peers and coming from your parents and guardians and whatever, whoever is going giving you any idea, giving due respect is to ask questions about that. It is due respect because I'm paying attention. Attention is the most valuable gesture, the most precious gesture in my life. If I'm paying attention, which means that I am giving you due respect. And when I'm giving you due respect, I'm going to ask you questions about that. That, oh, if you are suggesting that this is something is not good, then definitely there are some qualifications involved there. That when, how, why? Simple questions. Why it is not good? When it is not good? How it is not good? These simple questions can give you some sort of idea about appropriateness. When it is not good, which means that okay, there are some conditions. Okay. How it is not good? Okay, again, some conditions apply. When it is not good, conditions apply. When we become aware of these questions, we understand appropriateness. And this is something we need to pay attention to. And this is what giving due respect. In other words, impeccability. Whenever I'm asking questions, I'm not disobedient. I'm not questioning your integrity. That's the problem with mostly when we ask question, people assume that I'm questioning their authority. I'm questioning their integrity. I'm questioning their intent to goodness. No, I am giving due respect. Whatever you have been suggesting, offering, or sharing with me, I want to know more about this. That's why I'm asking. And simple questions like when, how, what, these are simple questions to understand some sort of appropriateness about these things. And
There
any
you go.
idea,
There you go.
about appropriateness is a false idea. Absolutely no other thought about this. If you don't have the understanding of appropriateness about any perspective or idea, it's a false idea. No. If
Figure
you
it
are
out.
not if you are not able to provide the context or of appropriateness about this idea, sorry, you are not being thorough.
Yes.
And if
Yes.
anyone is not
Yes.
being
Yes.
thorough about their idea, like including myself, of
No.
course, then they should not share. We have to
Wow,
understand the
Beena.
yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
this is what is so valuable about Way-Of-Impeccability and Moreness-Culture
Yeah.
and Don Juan and Carlos, because whatever
Yeah.
they were sharing, we are asking simple questions. And Sil is providing those answer to those questions. When, how,
And Beena.
what.
So, and Beena.
Yes. So this
You're
is
part
how
of it now, Beena. You're part of it now.
this is how it is becoming so valuable to us that okay, yes, when Don Juan was sharing something, it why and how it was appropriate, and when and how it was not, it is not appropriate.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And
Yes,
also we need to understand contextual bias. Yes.
exactly,
And
exactly.
and not assume because something is emphasized that this is the overall emphasis. And this is where we are at with Carlos right now. We are starting book 3, Journey to Ixtlan. And yeah, in this introduction, which he goes over things again, Carlos, we are at the point where he's realized that he's gotten things wrong. And he says it very clearly. In that assumption, I was erroneous. The assumption that
Mm.
it's all about sorcery, the assumption that it's all about power plants. It's not. And we are going to see this in this book. And I want to make this point because I've made this point many times, and some who have responded in comments and that uh, are like not quite getting it right, and looking to put this. If we take Don Juan and we say, well, and to some of the commenters, I say, fine, take Carlos's series, all of the books. Where do you put them in? If you were to list them, put them in a library, put them up on Amazon. What genre do you put them in? How do you classify them? How do you categorize them? Are they books about anthropology? That's where they were first put in, right? No, they're not. Are they books about psychedelics, which again later they got put in that category? No, they're not. Psychedelics, hallucinants, psychotropes, power plants, whatever you want to call it, right? Drugs. Yeah. I mean, I talk to people, and we're talking about books, and well, what books do you like? Which authors? Oh, Castaneda. Oh, yeah, I know Castaneda, the guy who wrote all about the drug stuff. Yeah. Or somebody else would say, if they don't say the drug, say, oh, yeah, Castaneda, oh, that guy who writes all about the sorcery stuff. Yeah, right, that guy. Yeah, I read some of his books. His books are not about sorcery, and you can't put it into a category of sorcery. There are books specifically about sorcery, like Aleister Crowley and people like that, but this is not. There is sorcery in it, but it's not about sorcery. Just because there's a lot of emphasis and detail on it doesn't make the book about sorcery. The sorcery is there for a reason, right? Contextual appropriateness, right? Beena's talking about appropriateness, and specifically contextual appropriateness, very key. Yeah. So looking at the bigger picture. So we say, okay, but it was a yucky way of knowledge, and Don Juan is an Indian, Native American, and before this was when I was talking about this and reading back in the day, Native American wasn't a term; it was Indian, right? And it's it's all about like Indian stuff, right? Native American stuff. No, it's not. Right? Again, it's a part of it, not a whole of it, right? So you can't go and put this under, let's say, Native American studies. That would be an inaccurate category, right, Beena?
Yes.
Beena? There you go. Right.
Yes.
See, so Native American studies, and it was for a while, I in the beginning, because I looked for the new books coming out. I started reading before all the books were published, right? So I would go and look in the categories regularly to see if there are new books. And they kept changing. They kept changing depending on which library I was in, and it was also during my travels around the world. So I looked for this in different parts of the world, like in Europe, America, and of course, originally in South Africa. And they kept changing. They kept changing, right? Everything. Then they went into self-help, because at the start of self-help, the category was self-help, and then later it got divided. Now it's like a huge category, but it didn't exist at one point. Personal development, and I think nowadays, I don't know where it would be. I've seen it in philosophy, for instance, alternate philosophy. I don't know, and spirituality is not a bad place for it, because there is a lot of spirituality, and depending on how you define spirituality, fair enough, right? Spirituality, especially if you have it a bit vague, where you're looking for more, but you don't quite know what it is. Okay, spirituality would be good. Don Juan later says the appropriate thing probably would be the least inaccurate. When we get to that section, he doesn't say those words, but well, probably, right? If you have to put it somewhere, the best would probably be Nahualism. Right? And Nahualism spelled Nagu, but pronounced like it's with a W, right? So he is a Nahual, Don Juan, and we'll get into this later on. But it's a very particular thing that he's talking about. But again, it's not entirely accurate, because there are others who deal with this, but they don't have the depth of what Don Juan brings to the table through his lineage, right? So to me, I say, in the overall, what is Don Juan's end goal? It is ultimate personal freedom. So to me, this is what the books are about. It is about ultimate personal freedom. And you could say, is that not the goal of spirituality?
Yes.
I know, right? But to me, I would say Don Juan is a freedomist. Some spirituality is, again, about worship in a different form. It's made not into direct worship, which is what religion's all about, but like the reverence of nature, and looking at nature and seeing its glory and wonder and all this, right? Much like the romantic poets had this idea. Oh, we were just reading some romantic poetry before this, right? We were reading Keats. And it's common in romantic poets, this romanticized view of nature. It's beautiful, it's spiritual, it's wonderful. There's also a lot of horror and brutality in nature, right? But if you see it only through this lens, this bubble, this filter, then you're going to missee it, right? But you could say that spirituality, in some of it, is about romanticizing nature and spirits of nature and the ineffable and that which cannot be defined. but it doesn't necessarily make it about personal freedom. Yeah. So spirituality is to say that Don Juan is about spirituality is not accurate. At least not how spirituality regularly is portrayed. To me, spirituality should be, in my eyes, I try not to use should, but if you really think about it, if you really want to be fully spiritual, isn't personal freedom a part of that? You could argue, not necessarily. Yeah, I could be spiritual and not be pursuing personal freedom, and that's your choice. There's nothing that says you have to pursue personal freedom. So spirituality, not exactly ideal for it. There is no nice category, right? But I would make a category, yeah. And the category, personal freedom. The category really is Moreness. Beena?
Yes.
It is capital M Moreness. Now, in Moreness-Culture, we always have Moreness with a capital M. But Don Juan is taking Moreness to the endpoint, which is what Moreness is. You keep going, you keep going. Ultimate personal freedom is. When you go past that, we don't know. When we get there, then we'll figure it out. But at this point, as from a Moreness-Culture point of view, that's the end goal. Ultimate personal freedom. Yes, Beena?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when we look at Carlos's books and we say, well, what are they actually about? What is Don Juan actually about? Don Juan is actually about ultimate Moreness, which is what Moreness is. This ultimate Moreness is a redundancy. It's like saying ultimate appropriateness, right? But for the purposes of the context, they say, well, Moreness can be, where I'm at. I want a little bit more, a little bit more. No, we want to take it all the way to the end, which is where the ultimate comes from, right? So if we think of Carlos's books and specifically what Don Juan is all about, Don Juan and everything that he brings to the table, his entire cosmology, his entire worldview, psychology, all of the stuff, all about ultimate Moreness, correct? It's not about sorcery. It's not about psychotropics. It's not about Indian studies, Indian affairs, Indian culture, Indian history, Indian tradition. None of that, right? It's not even about Toltec culture and history and tradition. That's a part of it. Later on, we'll see. And Taoism, again, it's a part of it. It's not the end goal. Yeah, it's a means to an end. Yeah? So
Yes.
ultimate Moreness, personal freedom. This is what it's about. Yeah? This is why Moreness is such an important concept. Yes, and I would assume at some point, Beena, you're going to see a category in libraries, Moreness. Yeah.
Yes.
And same thing as
Soon.
a genre,
Soon.
in on Amazon, Moreness. Yeah.
Yes.
Moreness.
Soon.
Because under Moreness, you can be writing about Moreness-Culture, you can have Moreness poetry, you can have Moreness studies, Moreness vocabulary, doesn't matter, right? Moreness language, which is language of conceptuality, dictionary, etc. So very cool, very cool. All right, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Let us continue our reading. Yes. And this is, we are very cool. I'm very keen to continue. It's good stuff. It's good stuff that we are doing now because we're really seeing Carlos kind of wake up, right? This is 10 years into his association with Don Juan. I said 1960, but he started with Don Juan in 61. I said falsely 60. I must remember, right? I thought he met him first in 60. Maybe the apprenticeship started in 61. All right, but either way. So anyway, this is now he's currently writing in 1971, even though the book was published later on, right? That's where he's at now. And he said this is the apprenticeship came to an end. And I don't know if it's artificial or not. We'll see a little bit. I don't remember exactly. But he's had a 10-year association. And the previous two books, he got it all wrong. And now he's correcting that. Right? So let me, not so. Just let me, don't need to say so. Screen share. Share again. And I need to share the sound.
Okay, we have a person who says JP says hello.
Brilliant. Hey, JP. Hello, mate. Hello. And I want to say hello there on Bribri. Hello, Bribri. How are you? Bribri? Bribri joined us on IG. and also Olive Producer. And I do believe Olive Producer has joined us before. Olive Producer 74. I know Bree has. I think Bree came on Zoom with us once. I think it's the same Bree.
Oh, yes.
Bree
Yes.
Brianka, I think so. This one is Bree. Oh no, this is Bree and Carlo. I don't know, but anyway, maybe it's the same. That was Bree. This is Bree Hello. Maybe a different person, but anyway, either way, I think I've seen you before as well. So I always like to see when people come back, and we like to hear from you. We really, really do like to hear from you. Actually, Beena, there is somebody, a new comment on YouTube I meant to share with you, but we were so busy doing the reading and then you had to go, and so we never got. So I want to go and pay attention to that as well. But anyway, let's continue. Let's continue our reading. And we're in this introduction of genetic stuff, right? Do you want to read, Beena, or you want me to read? Either way.
Please, you continue.
Okay. For the purpose of presenting my argument, this argument that he's been wrong, right? I must first explain the basic premise of sorcery as Don Juan presented it to me. He said that for a sorcerer, the world of everyday life is not real, or out there as we believe it. For a sorcerer, reality, or the world we all know, is only a description. This is the point of the sorcery. To get Carlos to understand this, not intellectually, he's written it down now, and he's got an intellectual understanding, but a visceral, direct, experiential understanding, something else entirely. He's gotten tastes of this, right? But not a full visceral, direct, physical understanding. Yeah, it's coming, but not yet, right? Or at least he hasn't written about it yet. He may have experienced it, but didn't write about it. So, because this book is going to go back in time now. But nonetheless, this is important. Don Juan has said the most, I think he says it in this book. He says the most difficult task for a benefactor, or the most difficult thing to get an apprentice to understand, is that the world is a description. He says every single thing that I have done has been geared towards getting you to understand the world is a description. Everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a big deal. And again, you have to experience it, not just know it intellectually. This is the challenge, right? For the sake of validating this premise, Don Juan concentrated the best of his efforts into leading me to a genuine conviction that what I held in my mind as the world at hand was merely a description of the world, a description that had been founded into me the moment I was born. Now, I was just going over this in the Ask Biala. In the very end, the last chapter, Biala deals with this because obviously it's a part of my understanding. And I come at it from a slightly different angle, which predates understanding Carlos. And it comes with understanding the theory of relativity, which is equal mc squared. Energy is equal to mass times accelerated, magnified with a very large number, right? That's what E equal mc squared means. Yeah. The c squared is the speed of light squared. It just happens to be the speed of light squared, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But in that equation, it's just a very big number. It's not an infinite number. But if you rearrange the elements, which you can do with equations, and you put mass or matter on the one side, then you get m is equal to E divided by c squared, which is matter is equal to energy divided by a very large number. What does that divided by mean? This always intrigued me, and I had to figure it out myself, because nowhere ever does anybody actually say what that divided by, how does this work, what does it mean? Yeah? To me, what does that dividing? Energy divided by. I took it as slowed down. What is doing that dividing or that slowing down? Consciousness, awareness, internal talk, conception, language. Not language itself in the way we normally think of it, but capital L language, conception, in other words. This is fascinating to me, because the Bible has a lot of stuff in it that's typical religion stuff you find everywhere else. But something that at the time was very anomalous in the Bible, it comes up in two places, in the New Testament and in the Old Testament, right? And it says, in the beginning was the Word. In the one place it says, and the word moved upon the face of the waters, and in the other mention, it says, and the Word moved upon the face of the void.
Wow.
The void, silence. Yeah, it's very profound. It's very anomalous in the whole Bible, because the rest of the stuff doesn't relate to this at all. It's just like, wow, you got this really profound thing, and then the rest is just ordinary stuff, right? Well, relatively ordinary. But that's really profound, because if you now take the Word, and the Word moved upon the face of the void, the waters, the void, the same, yeah, right? You have silence, in other words, nothingness, void. And you've got a word. If you change that to conception, suddenly everything makes sense. The word people assume is a particular word. It doesn't matter. It's just word. If you drop any word into silence as a conception, implication creates everything else. Yes? If you have complete silence and nothing, and you drop this conception of chair, so much goes with it by implication. Well, a chair is made for sitting. Who's sitting on it? See? And sitting, well, you've got armrests. You can now start to understand the physiology of who the chair is designed for. See what I mean? Implications. Also, it's made out of wood, well, or metal. Well, where did this come from? Well, somebody had to, there are trees in this world, and somebody had to chop down the trees. That means they're axes, and so on and so forth. See what I mean? Just from one simple conception, the entire universe basically comes along with it, or at least most of it. Yeah. So conception is precisely the term, because to conceive is to create. So when we understand this conception, we are now understanding the world as a description. Our consciousness, our awareness creates everything. Yeah. And we've made it very real. We've come to believe it's real because we want to. Yeah. It's very convenient. So this is a big, big deal, this, right, when we understand this. Don Juan is going to elaborate on this later on, but I just wanted to put this into the context of equal MC squared, or M is equal to E divided by C squared. That there is, in other words, scientific proof for it. Yes? I mean, it's not just something that I'm sucking out of my thumb. I am putting things together, yes. Yeah. And that, like I said, this was for me the E equal MC squared when I reversed it. It's something I did, in my school years when I first encountered this. And it was very profound to me to really understand this and to really see that, there's a moreness here. And that metaphysical component of E equal MC squared is seldom commented on. Einstein later, much later, in recent years only, with internet and Facebook, only did I ever see his comments on this in a more metaphysical, spiritual way. Because at the time Einstein was around, it was difficult to say things like that, right? But he did, in a way. He basically said, we created all, in a not so direct way, but still. All right. So for a sorcery, reality, or the world we all know, is only description. So the sorcery was towards description. And likewise, the hallucinogens, the psychotropics, the power plants, same thing, was for getting Carlos to understand that it's all a description, right? For shattering his certainty that the world is solid, is real, is fixed. Yeah? For the sake of validating this premise, Don Juan concentrated the best of his efforts into leading me to a genuine conviction that what I had held in mind as the world at hand was merely a description of the world, a description that had been founded into me from the moment I was born. He pointed out that everyone who comes into contact with a child is a teacher who incessantly describes the world to him, until the moment when the child is capable of perceiving the world as it is described. According to Don Juan, we have no memory of that portentous moment, simply because none of us could possibly have had any point of reference to compare it to anything else. From that moment on, however, the child is a member. He knows the description of the world, and his membership becomes full-fledged. I suppose, when he is capable of making all the proper perceptual interpretations which, by conforming to that description rather than. So it becomes a self-reinforcing loop. Yes? For Don Juan, then, the reality of our day-to-day life consists of an endless flow of perceptual interpretations which we, the individuals who share a specific membership, have learned to make in common. A quick note on schizophrenics. Yeah. In the more modern understanding of schizophrenics, back when I was a kid, schizophrenia meant split personality. It no longer means that. Right? That's split personality or dual personalities or whatever. Right? There's another term for it where it's more than one. But it doesn't mean that. Schizophrenia, understanding it now, is, and I'll put it in this context here. So I haven't heard it delineated this, but it is perceiving the world not according to the standard description. Yeah, that's schizophrenics perceive all sorts of other things, and the range varies tremendously. It varies tremendously according to how they were brought up to perceive their schizophrenia, but they are not perceiving the world according to the same description as you and I. Right? They see all sorts of weird and wild and wonderful things. They are not tied into the description. It's quite fantastic. Read R.D. Laing on this. Yes. R.D. Laing will really give you a nice perception. Very profound work. He described schizophrenics as the explorers, as those are on the outer edges of human consciousness, stretching the boundaries of human consciousness. And most fantastic understanding of schizophrenia. Really fantastic. Really, really cool. All right. The idea that the perceptual interpretations that make up the world have a flow is congruous with the fact that they run uninterruptedly and are rarely ever open to question. In fact, the reality of the world we know is so taken for granted that the basic premise of sorcery, that our reality is merely one of many descriptions, would hardly be taken as a serious proposition. So he's making this point again that we are so convinced of our solid reality that to say it anywhere else is preposterous, like the schizophrenics. They are perceiving non-solid reality, our regular reality, and we label them as crazy. R.D. Laing, back in the 50s, said no. And this is what really, really profound, right? He said they are on the boundaries, the edges of consciousness. They're expanding our understanding of what consciousness is. And by definition, if we understand consciousness to be the factor, which is taking M and E divided by, it's that dividing factor. Consciousness is the mechanism whereby we translate a raw energy, the actual raw energy of the universe, into something usable, perceivable reality. Yeah? Consciousness is that translating mechanism. Yeah, fantastic, really, really fantastic. Now we see all this starting to fall into place, right? Taking it together, right? And also he's saying something very profound here. Did you notice that, Beena?
No, no.
Okay. In fact, the reality of the world we know is so taken for granted that the basic premise of sorcery, that our reality is merely one of many descriptions, could hardly be taken as a serious proposition. Very important, because the point he's making here is about you can't take it as a serious proposition because we're so convinced of the reality. We don't take sorcery's idea that sorcery is but one of many descriptions. We can't take it seriously. If we focus on the can't take it seriously part, we miss this gem. Oh, sorcery is not a description of an alternate reality, which is Carlos's mistake. In book 2, he calls it an alternate reality, implying it's that mentality of opposites, implying either or. There's our regular reality and then there's alternate reality. He missed that it's one of many. Yeah? So you can say, well, to say and it doesn't imply that, but, you know, the title of the book should be one of many realities, one of many alternate realities, right? So, okay, you can say, and if you understand it in context, it does that, but Carlos did not, right? So he made that mistake, and it's communicated in his writing. But yeah, we're paying attention. This is the point of capital R reading, is to pay attention and read things like that, right? Our reality is merely one of many descriptions. Now, this is very, very, very important, right? Very, very, very important. Yes? Yeah. I think I want to put this as a quote.
Yes.
Right. See, now I'm going to take it just the important part, right? Just pull the quote out there. The basic premise of sorcery, that our reality is merely one of many descriptions. That's all I'm going to take out. That's all that's pertinent here. Correct? Right, Beena? The rest doesn't really matter. I mean, it
Exactly.
does a little bit. It does a little bit, but not entirely.
Yes.
3. What page are we on? Always forget to look at the page. Come back again. Come on. So here we go. Page 5. Okay. Book 3, page 5. Just again, this is why we do capital R reading, to pay attention, to truly, truly pay attention to that which truly, truly matters, and the big deal, right? I mean, the fact that we are stuck in perceptions, that's not really pertinent here, right? But what is pertinent is one of many descriptions. That's very important. Fortunately, he goes on to say, fortunately, in the case of my apprenticeship, Don Juan was not concerned at all with whether or not I could take this proposition seriously. And he proceeded to elucidate these points in spite of my opposition, my disbelief, and my inability to understand what he was saying. Don Juan is about showing, not telling. And he understands one of the core premises of Way-Of-Impeccability and Moreness-Culture, which is we can get value out of things whether they are true or not. Yeah? This
Exactly.
was not true for Carlos, but he got value out of it regardless, right? And Don Juan just continued. Yeah? Very powerful. Yeah, Beena?
Yes.
Yeah. And he proceeded to elucidate these points in spite of my opposition, my disbelief, and my inability to understand what he was saying. Thus, as a teacher of sorcery, Don Juan endeavored to describe the world to me from the very first time we talked. Again, we have to be careful here. Thus, as a teacher of sorcery, is this an accurate statement? Yes, it is. Is it an inaccurate statement? Yes, it is. Yeah? Right, Beena? Beena? I'm asking. I think Beena has got something going on there. So, all right.
It's breaking. It's breaking for me. Sorry.
Oh. Yeah, you're breaking for me too. I think leave and come right back, Beena.
Oh, again. Okay, I'm leaving,
Yeah.
sir.
All right. Okay, I'll wait until you come back. Uh, I won't continue, but this is an important point. And that's why I wanted to get Venus feedback on it. Because if we read this, thus, as a teacher of sorcery, oh, that's what Don Juan's all about. He's a teacher of sorcery. No, because he is a teacher of sorcery doesn't mean everything he does is about teaching sorcery. He teaches sorcery as a means to an end. This is the point I was making. It's this assumption and categorization, and Carlos is trying to get out of it, but he still falls into this trap, right? And preciseness of language is very important, right? So rather than saying thus, as a teacher of sorcery, thus, when Don Juan taught me sorcery as part of the greater whole, he endeavored to describe the world to me from the very first time we talked. See, now you have the appropriate context to understand that, yes, he's a teacher of sorcery, but he's also a teacher of many other things, right? But if you don't point out that sorcery is part of other things, our brain tends to assume that that's what Don Juan is, a teacher of sorcery. Therefore, he's all about sorcery. See, this inaccurate usage of language, very, 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 very critical, right? We have to pay attention to this. This is why in Way of Impeccability, we pay attention to discernment. Discernment is key, critical, important, huge, right? ADU leading to application. We have to have awareness, right? First, if you're not aware, if you're unaware, you just see things shallowly. That's what unawareness is. And you just grasp the surface. You never see the depth of things. You never see the layeredness. You never see that there's more. And you assume stuff, like in this case. You assume, thus, as a teacher of sorcery, oh, Don Juan is a sorcery teacher. And our brains are so locked into this categorization of things that we don't understand that it can be other beside that, right? It can be more than that. We have to be very, very careful. Discernment is absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. JP, we are at the beginning of the road. JP says, I wish I could have caught you at the beginning of the road. We are. This is book 3, which really is book 1. Because Carlos is going to go back in time. And you're going to see, we're going to go back into 1961, 1962, etc. But he's coming at it with a different perspective, a different worldview, a different understanding. His eyes are open. So we are starting again. Yeah. To me, books 1 and 2 really can be skipped. We should really be reading it as book 3 and then 1, 2. Yeah. That should be the reading order. That's not the publishing order, but that's the chronological order. Kind of. I mean, book 3 and book 1, they basically deal with the same time period. But you really need to understand book 3 first. Then book 1 makes more sense. Because book 1 emphasizes the psychotropics, the drugs. And in book 2, somewhat the sorcery. And it's inappropriate emphasis. It's about what is being emphasized in book 3, which is about impeccability, the warrior's way. Character development, in other words. So please stick with us. Stick with us, Dave. Beena, where are you? Where are you? Come back, come back, come back. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Now, all right. I wanted to wait for Beena, but I'll just recap when she comes back. And she knows this. We've gone over this. So just for JP, I'm reading Don Juan and Carlos's books, not for the point of just the content itself, but also we are doing this within the context of Moreness-Culture. All the lives that Beena and I do, and we have a TV show called The Moreness Show. You'll find it on YouTube, or you can find it on my website, nobelia.org/Moreness Show, and you can catch up on all of the past ones there. And in the Moreness Show, we specifically focus on Moreness and Moreness-Culture. Part of Moreness-Culture is capital R reading, the ability to discern, the ability to see more, the ability to make these connections, right? And we've taken, in part of Moreness-Culture, at its root is Way-Of-Impeccability, which is a program. It's a toolbox, not a belief system, a toolbox for character development, a toolbox for the development of awareness, a toolbox for the development of discernment, a toolbox for the development of understanding, and taking those then to application, because without application, it's all meaningless, right? So this is the core to Moreness-Culture, Way-Of-Impeccability. There are other programs, capital H hearing, the psychology of superiority paradigm, and then Moreness project, right? So there are other parts of it. But at its root, Moreness-Culture is about character development with the aim of personal ultimate freedom. Yeah? So that's where we are at. But you can have all this fancy stuff. If you don't develop your character, if you don't have character, real character, it's all wasted, right? You're just going to get into a mess, get into trouble. So you are at the beginning. Yeah, it's been a back again. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Very cool. So I love it. I love it, JP. So yeah, please stick with us. Please stick with us. We are at the beginning. Yes. Beena, I was just reading JP's comment there where he says, I wish I could have caught you at the beginning of the road. We are. We are. All right. So let's continue where we're at.
Yes.
Fortunately, in the case of my apprenticeship, Don Juan was not concerned at all whether or not I could take these propositions seriously, and he proceeded to elucidate his points, in spite of my opposition, my disbelief, and my inability to understand what he was saying. Thus, as a teacher of sorcery, I was on this point of a teacher of sorcery, and to put it into appropriate context. Carlos's writing sometimes is inaccurate and poor, right? This sentence, thus as a teacher of sorcery, implies this is what Don Juan is. He's a sorcerer who's teaching Carlos sorcery. No, it's one of the things he does, right? So to me, the appropriate writing here to be accurate, which is what we strive for. Accuracy is very important. Way-of-Impeccability teaches us to be accurate, to be precise. It should rather be written thus, as one of the subjects taught by Don Juan, sorcery was used, right, to Don Juan, endeavored through use of sorcery and other methods, endeavored to describe the world to me from the very first time we talked. My difficulty in grasping his concepts and methods stemmed from the fact that the units of his description were alien and incompatible with those of my own. His contention was that he was teaching me how to perceive as opposed to merely looking, and that stopping the world was the first step to perceiving. Now, JP, if you're familiar with this, you'll see, if you're reading along with me, you'll see I'm saying perceiving, capital P, perceiving instead of seeing. Why? Because later Don Juan again says inaccurate use of language. Another term, another way of describing, another name for way of impeccability is the language of conceptuality. And we get back to what I said earlier about, right? The word moved upon the face of the void, conceptuality. See? And this is the magical language of creation, conceptuality. See? When you understand this, we get into a whole different thing. Conceptuality for our own selves apply. One, just in a very practical way. I used to play a lot of golf once upon a time, and I was a very good golfer. I was an exceptionally good golfer, in the top 5.05% of golfers. But I'm a better golf teacher. Why? Because when I teach golf, I teach the conception of golf. Most people play poor golf because they don't know how to conceive of what they're doing. What they think they are trying to do and what they actually need to do are two different things. As soon as I change the conception of what to do, then the game improves fantastically. Right? Very simple and very practical way to say conceptuality really, really makes a difference. Right? Very, very powerful. So this all about conceptuality. Right? That's wait. So that's why I say capital V perceiving, because this is an appropriate conception. Because seeing, Don Juan later says, is a poor term because it makes us think that capital P perceiving is a matter of the eyes. It's not. All your senses and even those you don't know about. Right? Very important here. So that's why I'm doing that. Geo Derek says, I'm reading this book now. Wonderful. Read along with us, Geo, because in our capital R reading, we bring more to it than what is said in the text. Like, for instance, understanding that this term seeing, which is used throughout the book series, all 14 books, is not an accurate term, according to Don Juan, right? And he regrets the use of it, but it's his tradition and it's what he came to know. And if he could do things differently, he would likely use this word perceiving. Yeah. So we are going a little bit beyond. And there are many things that, and Don Juan says, he says that, you've got to take what's shown and take it further. And that's what we are doing here and have done. And what we bring to the table through Moreness-Culture is a great big body of Moreness that takes this further, right? I mean, just the concept of Moreness. I was saying, if you want to categorize Carlos's books and what Don Juan is all about, it's all about Moreness, Ultimate-Moreness, right? So conceptuality, very important. And that's why we changed this, seeing to perceive. So let's continue. His contention was that he was teaching me to perceive as opposed to merely looking. That's a very big difference. Most people just look at things, they don't perceive them, right? And that's stopping the world in italics, right? Now in Way of Impeccability, we would put that in all capitals because it will go in our dictionary of power and it would be hyphenated, because stopping the world here is a conception, right? It's not literally putting your hand up and saying, oh, the world has stopped spinning, it stopped revolving around the sun. No, that stopping the world, 3 words, that's what that means. Stopping the world is an abstract understanding, right? It's an abstract conception. When you put the hyphens, this implies it. And when you capitalize it, it even more says this is a named thing, that it's a conception and it's a powerful conception science. And that's why we have a dictionary of power, because we put all those conceptions in, it changes our entire way of thinking, way of being. Language is a very, very powerful mechanism for change. Okay, right? And it's a powerful mechanism. Again, it is through language that we maintain the description. Change the language, change the description. Very, very important, right?
It is. It is. Just wanna
it's
say
huge.
something for
Please,
the people
please.
who are joining us now. this is what we are doing. We are doing the capital R reading of Carlos Castaneda's books about Don Juan. And capital R reading is a process in which we go beyond the words, beyond what has been shared, obviously. And we are doing this with a very specific intent, not just reading and want to know about what he was using, what mediums, what ways he was using to extract moreness and value, but to connect with Don Juan's intent of sharing, capital S sharing. And we with the intent to connect with Don Juan. Because these were people, they were like, okay, for me, they were so respectable because they were at that time, they go beyond the norms of the culture. They go beyond the norms of society and everything, and they explore something new. And of course, I don't know that, okay, how many people, okay, or Don Juan's teachers and other his lineage, when first time someone explored something in their culture, how other people were treating him or them, I don't know. And I really want to know that, because introducing something new is actually challenging the old. And this is how by default we get into this mindset. And that's why we are doing this capital R reading with a very specific intent, to connect with the intent. Because not just getting into, of course, this book is so valuable, all the books are so valuable from Carlos, because he shared a lot from Don Juan, right? Okay, and then shared with us. But understanding and communicating and connecting with the intent at that time, what they were doing. The intent was not just, okay, about the power plants or medicinal plants or other mediums. It was about to explore the moreness. And that is really always very daring, very, very challenging. Because now when I saw that, okay, I am experiencing this with self. Whenever we mention moreness, people are like, what is this? Okay, they don't want to acknowledge that. Even they say that, oh, it's not a word even. So I'm curious that, okay, how the first time when someone really explore this thing and start sharing, how the other people with the normal world were reacting towards that. Because we have this tendency as human that we feel that if something is new, it means that it is challenging my authority. And this is the
There
problem.
you go. What a profound, profound, profound insight from Beena. Say that again, please. Say exactly that same sentence.
Yes, whenever we encounter something new, we assume that it is challenging my authority.
We tend to, yes, to be a precise but more accurate, right? Not necessarily in every time, but on the whole, we tend to. Very, very profound. In other words, when it's new, we want to say, no, 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 we want to negate it because we don't want our authority challenged. This is horrible.
Yes.
This is why tradition is so limiting, because tradition is anti-new, and that's the reason why. One of them, right? Superiority, self-importance, etc. Insecurity, really. My authority is certain. I'm insecure. If you're secure about your authority, you don't care about the stuff. New stuff is embraced. You're not threatened by it, right? Not a problem. All right, so we are coming at this through the lens of Moreness-Culture, through the filter of Moreness-Culture, in the context of Moreness-Culture. Moreness-Culture has the same end goal as Don Juan, ultimate personal freedom, Moreness, Ultimate-Moreness. However, Moreness-Culture is a culture of value and usefulness. It's not an intellectual culture. Intellectual is understanding things intellectually, but we don't take it to usefulness and value, to application, to practice. If you don't do that, it's all useless. So moreness is about actual value, actual usefulness, which is application, implementation, using it, right? Putting it into practice, right? Capital P, practice, is one of the terms in our dictionary of power, right? Very, 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 very important to understand that. And that's why we are coming at this and we are saying, how does this make it useful? And we are going to be doing many things in this reading that adds extra to it, adds a lot extra, and changes the perception of things. Very importantly, right? So I'm saying, Geo and JP, stick with us. There's a lot of value to be had. All right. So stopping the world. His contention was that he was teaching me how to perceive as opposed to looking, and that stopping the world was the first step to perceiving. The first step to perceiving. Now, Book 2 was all about perceiving. The first half is called the preliminaries of seeing, and the second part is the task of seeing. The task of perceiving, the preliminaries of perceiving. So we have already got a whole book all about perceiving, but nowhere in book 2 is stopping the world mentioned as this conception, as this profound preliminary perception is the first step to perceiving. Again, we are going back. Yeah, Carlos has realized, oh my God, I missed the boat. And he went over he mentions it somewhere. He says, I went over my field notes and realized I missed a lot, right? I think it's coming. Right. So for years, I treated the idea of stopping the world as a cryptic metaphor that really did not mean anything. That's arrogance. It was only during an informal conversation that took place towards the end of my apprenticeship that I came fully to realize its scope and importance as one of the main propositions of Don Juan's. Again, if you look at this, stopping the world is not exclusive to Don Juan. The words stopping the world, yes, I've never seen that used anywhere else. But the same underlying conception is mentioned extensively in everywhere else, right? In many different ways. Right? But Don Juan, and one of the reasons that I really like Don Juan is Don Juan's use of language is much better than everywhere else. Is it always the most appropriate, the best? No, like in seeing and perceiving. Can it be enhanced? Yes. Is it really good? Yes, right? So Don Juan is expression and his use of language, very good. Can it be improved? Yes. But this idea of stopping the world, Eastern spirituality, Eastern philosophy, Eastern idealism, Eastern religion, it's full of this, although they don't understand this, but they just call it silence. Same thing, right? The pursuit of silence as a goal is for this purpose, collapse the world, right? All is mind, mind is all, Maya. The whole concept of Maya is about the illusion of reality. Yeah? What is the difference between saying the world is a description and the world is an illusion? The underlying idea is the same, but people bother with the solution. Yeah, but I can see and touch the real. See? So this whole idea of it got poo-pooed and said, oh, it's woo, it's nonsense and that. But when you say the world is a description, as Einstein said, M is equal to E divided by C squared. Except nobody has that interpretation, just me that puts it into this context, right? Anyway, so Moreness. I'm just saying that our Moreness culture, we are bringing Moreness to bear on what we are reading. Right? Very important to keep in mind. For years, I had treated stopping the world as a cryptic metaphor that really did not mean anything. It was only during an informal conversation that took place towards the end of my apprenticeship that I came fully to realize its scope and importance as one of the main propositions of Don Juan's knowledge. Don Juan and I had been talking about different things in a relaxed and unstructured manner. I had told him about a friend of mine and his dilemma with his 9-year-old son. I love the story. The child, who had been living with a mother for the past 4 years, was then living with my friend, and the problem was what to do with him. According to my friend, the child was a misfit in school. He lacked concentration and was not interested in anything. He was given to tantrums, disruptive behavior, and to running away from home. Your friend certainly does have a problem, Don Juan said, laughing. He wanted to keep on. I wanted to keep on telling him all the terrible things the child had done, but he interrupted me. There is no need to say any more about that poor little boy. There is no need for you or for me to regard his actions in our thoughts one way or another. Will you read the sentence, please, Beena?
Okay. Yes. Okay. There is no need for you or for me to regard his actions in our thoughts, one way or another.
Implications. One of the tools of Way-Of-Impeccability, one of the tools of Moreness-Culture is a thorough, comprehensive understanding and application of the profound conception of implication. Isn't this sentence simply fraught with implication?
Yes.
By implication, if we have thoughts one way or another about the little boy, we are affecting that little boy in some way.
Yes.
Our thoughts affect others. Very profound. It's a very deep philosophical, spiritual conception that lies deep within Moreness-Culture. Right? Very, very important. So let's continue here. His manner was abrupt and his tone was firm. Then he smiled. What can my friend do? The worst thing he could do is to force that child to agree with him. Ah, I love this. I love the story. Love this, right? The worst thing he could do is to force that child to agree. This is pure Moreness-Culture, right? And later when we get into the new nobility and all that, which is, it's not saying that this is where you have to go, it's a choice, right? But in that culture, in that really taking Moreness-Culture to its extreme, this is really, really a core part, right? To force the child to agree with him. In superiority paradigm culture, we assume that this is what we have to do. Look at people on comments, right? It's always I agree or I disagree. Never I understand or I don't understand. Yeah, can you help me understand? If we understand, agree and disagree become irrelevant. Yeah. So again,
Exactly.
forcing people to agree is limiting. It's horrible. It's a terrible thing to do. What do you
Yes.
mean? I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was
Oh,
just
you're
saying
just
that.
saying it. Yeah.
Yes. No, I was just acknowledging
Just
that. Okay, what
emphasizing.
you're mentioning about.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It needs emphasis that we need to shift to understanding rather than agree, disagree. It limits you. It boxes you in. It doesn't get you anywhere. I mean, so what if you agree with me? I mean, superiority bias, oh, that's wonderful because now I'm right and I like to be right. And who cares? It's not about being right. It's about understanding. You can be right about things and not understand, which a lot of people are. And it's useless. What do you mean? Asked Carlos. I mean that the child shouldn't be spanked or scared by his father when he doesn't behave the way he wants him to. How can he teach him anything if he isn't firm with him? Your friend should let someone else spank the child. Can you imagine Carlos's reaction? I already know it, but he can't let anyone else touch his little boy. His little boy. I said, surprised at his suggestion and outraged also. Don Juan seemed to enjoy my reaction and giggled. Your friend is not a warrior. If he were, he would know that the worst thing one can do is to confront human beings bluntly. What does a warrior do, Don Juan? This is the first time we've heard Carlos ask this question. What does a warrior do? Not what should I do or what should a person do? What does a warrior do? Yeah? And it's a harbinger of what's to come. Hmm? A warrior proceeds strategically. I still don't understand what you mean. I mean that if your friend were a warrior, he would help his child to stop the world. How can my friend do that? He would need personal power. He would need to be a sorcerer or a person of knowledge, right? Or a perceiver. Many terms here for sorcerer. Again, Don Juan apologizes later on for using this term sorcerer because he really doesn't have a better term, right? But a person of knowledge would be better here, right? But he isn't. In that case, he must use ordinary means to help his son to change his idea of the world. It is not stopping the world, but it will work just the same. I asked him to explain his statements. If I were your friend, Don Juan said, I would start by hiring someone to spank the little guy. I would go to Skid Row and hire the worst looking man I could find to scare the little boy. Not just to scare the little boy, you fool. That little fellow must be stopped, and by being beaten by his father won't do it. Yeah. I mean, understand the psychology. If his father beats him, it's going to be resentment, anger, and it's going to lead to entrenching the very thing because the little boy would see this as an outrageous or an unfair or ridiculous act by his father. And that would just lead to him reinforcing the behavior as an act of defiance because if he then changes the behavior, it says, it's okay for my father to beat me. And see, and this is like, how can you say it's okay? You don't want more of that. Yeah? It doesn't work in the psychology. There's more to it than that, but I'm just giving the real basics of it. So it's not a very ineffective way, not just to scare not just to scare a little boy. That little fellow must be stopped and be beaten by his father. Won't do. If one wants to stop our fellow persons, One must always be outside the circle that presses them. That way, one can always direct the pressure. This is a very powerful statement. Yes, yeah, yeah, very, very powerful. And we'll put this into our quote file here, and always. It's very important, right, Beena? Does that make sense to you? What Don Juan is saying here? Does this connect?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, very important. So nice
It
to
is
put it
important.
in our quote file. So you don't see me
Yes.
doing this because I have the screen share set to show only that window. But I'm going to a spreadsheet where I put all these quotes and then I put the page, and usually I put also, a category. But I'll come back to categorizing them because I don't have the time later. And later I'll sort it into the different things. It's very useful,
Yes.
very useful.
And
And
this
this
is
is useful
also
to
a
do
right
with what
time.
we do also.
Yes, and
Correct.
this is right time to conclude this today. And
Oh, okay, okay,
yes,
okay,
and then
okay,
we'll continue
okay.
tomorrow.
I actually want to just read to the end of this, but yeah, there's actually a lot more on this. Yeah. So another two
Yes, because
pages. All right, we'll
other
start the story. We'll start the story. Yeah, we'll start the story again
yes,
tomorrow. All right, all right.
yes, because otherwise we will miss a lot of context and of course
Correct,
the
correct,
illustration about that.
correct. So
And
we'll
it
we'll
we
we'll start at this tomorrow. Yeah,
yes, because we don't want to just read it, just finish this book. No,
correct,
we don't want to finish this
correct.
book. We want to actually complete this book. So this is a different thing. And then, of course, capital R reading
Yeah,
required a lot of nuance, detail, elucidation, and Sil is providing us. And this is something that, okay, yes, I'm looking forward for more. Yes.
yes, yes, yes. So just to stop you for a second there, something very important. Amon has joined us.
Oh,
Hello,
wow.
hello,
Hello,
Amon.
Amy.
Yeah,
Hello,
yeah.
Amy.
Hi,
Uh,
Amy. I love it. I love
okay.
it. Amy
Yes.
seldom
Okay.
joins us. Lubna and Dushka do regularly, but we love it when they all join. These are
Yes.
just wonderful
Yes.
Moreness people, and I
Yes.
just love them dearly, and they are very magical. So I always appreciate it when they come.
Okay,
When they
thank you
do.
so
All
much,
right,
everyone,
fantastic,
for
fantastic.
joining us, including
Uh,
Amy. Thank you so much, and JP and Derek, and of course other people on TikTok, and I don't know that okay on Instagram because I cannot see their names, but I know that okay you guys are there, and also people who are going to watch the recording. We always appreciate you. I just love to hear from you, of course, but of course as long as you are happy and you are just enjoying that, and of course if you find some value, please do pay attention to your online algorithm by making it obvious for it. Whenever you like something, please do pay attention, make it obvious, click a like or leave a comment or just okay hit the notification bell, not to our channel only but of course to others also, because by doing so you are going to train your online algorithm to give you more valuable stuff, and also
yeah,
eliminate the randomness from your newsfeed, which is really bothering. This is the first step towards acquiring peace of being. Be empowered enough, train things for your life that paying attention, your attention is so valuable, so precious. This is the real currency now. So please do pay attention to that because ultimately it is connected to your life algorithm. And as you will learn and, of course, practice, implementing this thoroughness, this deliberateness, it is going to, of course, incorporate into your online life algorithm, which is the first step towards deliberate living. And this is what we share every single day. See you guys tomorrow,
yeah,
same time, same place, of course. And we will continue with Carlos' books about Don Juan.
yeah.
Thank you so much,
Very
sir.
key, very key. That's why we're going so slowly on this
Yes.
introduction, because it is providing appropriate context for the first time. I've been sharing this all throughout the first two books, but still, when you read, it's very easy to fall into the trap of the bubble of Carlos's inappropriate bubble. We don't want to do that. So we're going to continue with this. Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, Monday. We'll be
Yes,
there.
yes, yes, yes.
And,
Okay.
all
Bye
right.
for
Bye bye,
now.
everybody. Bye bye, everybody. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. All right. Excellent. 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 End meeting and live video. Yes.